About a year ago, I think it was, Mitch, we were teaching this to a group of people. And after we taught it, it's super easy to learn. About 3 days later, one of the people walked up to me and said, I have a question about that. I've been doing the HoOponopono. And I said, okay, great. What happens when you forget what you were cleaning on? Like, I totally forgot. Like, I couldn't remember even why I was saying the words. I said, perfect.
It worked.
It worked. Time to move on. Clean on something else or go about your day or whatever it is. But don't try to get, like, now, why was I saying those words? What was the problem I was
Go
noticing?
back to the problem. I know. Well, that's what, someone once said to me that forgiveness is actually forgetting. So I love that, to actually forget what it is that you're even forgiving is so perfect. It's just the thing I love about forgiveness is it's absolute. For me, it's not about, like Brandy said earlier, it's not about forgiving the person or forgiving the activity or the event that happened. It's about just forgiving. It's about liberation, about just going back to that original state of love. And for me, when I do it personally, it's absolute liberation for me. And that's all we can do is heal ourselves. And then everything around us seems to work out. And other people get healed as well.
Well, that's exactly how this book starts, Zero Limits, which I think is a phenomenal book. I was gripped in the first pages because Dr. Hew Len is a psychologist who was practicing self-identity HoOponopono from the teacher he learned it from. And he was hired to go into the state mental ward at the...
It was actually the it was the state hospital, and it was the mental criminally insane or the criminally insane ward in the Hawaiian State Hospital.
That's right. And this hospital could not keep any psychologists there for any length of time. It was physically dangerous. People were being assaulted. Most of the inmates were kept locked up like 23 hours a day.
In shackles and handcuffs. And
there was a lot of violence when a psychologist walked down through the ward. They had to
walk along the wall.
Although they're back to the wall and walk through it. And plants wouldn't even grow there. It was a really horrible place. And Dr. Hew Len came in, and the only thing he would do, he would not meet with the inmates. He didn't do any therapy with them. What he would do is he would take a file of one of the inmates, and he would sit at his desk for hours every day, and all he would do is clean on this. Because one of the precepts of HoOponopono is if you recognize a problem, if you're aware of the problem, even though the problem appears to be outside of yourself, here's someone who's criminally insane and has all of these mental problems. If you recognize it, there's something within you that needs to be corrected so that problem can be corrected out in the world. So he would just clean and clean and clean on these inmates, and all of his colleagues thought he was crazy, and it's happy to report now that after, I think he did that for 2 years.
It immediately, within 3 months, things started to change. Within 3 months, some of the patients already started to get off their medications or back off on a lot of the medications. People who were in shackles were being freed from the shackles. People who they never thought were going to get out of this hospital, that they had actually out of this part of this criminally insane ward, started making changes and getting freed and sent to different parts of the hospital for just to deal with their physical issues, not so much their emotional state. So, it was within 3 years.
Was it
closed?
3 years, the entire ward closed, and
right.
And every inmate except 2 there, or every person in that hospital. I keep calling them inmates, but they were locked up. But 2 were released back into society as healed. And it all started with Dr. Hew Len recognizing that if I see that this problem exists, then I need to clean out any erroneous thought within me to help heal these people.
And I think one thing he also understood is that by the virtue of these people being where they are, it was simply one of their memories running. There was no judgment about it. It was just a certain memory. He understood that they were just running their memories and their programming, and that's what got them there in the first place. And, I think one of the things I love about HoOponopono is it's taking full 100% responsibility. It really is seeing the big picture. So if we really want to step into, I know a lot of people are walking around talking about how we're all one, and if we really are all one, then if somebody else is having an experience, that's part of who I am too. So it makes perfect sense to me that if Dr. Hew Len just went and looked over the files and cleaned on every issue that came up for him, that he would clean for those other people as well. And everybody had a good experience. I mean, the evidence is the results of his work.
It's a fascinating story, and it's been documented and looked over. So get the book or Google some stories about that on the internet and really see that there's a lot of ways in this world to solve our problems and don't necessarily involve, some of the more drastic measures that we take. But I've said at the beginning of the show that this is what we're teaching today is called self-identity, HoOponopono, but the concept of HoOponopono is an ancient Hawaiian ritual that's very different than what we're teaching today, that involves basically a mediator and a group of people coming together. And I actually we have a couple of clips
perfect.
On how that was done, how some people still practice that version, and it's widely done in Hawaii. And what we're teaching here is slightly different, but I wanted to show the kind of original version. And what I like about this clip a lot, Mitch, is that these are all Hawaiians, and even though they're speaking English, I love the way that Hawaiians use the words. I've never lived there. I've actually never even been to Hawaii, but I know a lot of people who either are Hawaiian or who have lived there, and I just love the way they put the word structure together, and I think you'll see that as we go to this clip.
My neighbor's from Hawaii, so when we talk, it's great.
I love the phrase talk story, which means you sit down and have a conversation, but they call it talk story, so... Anyhow, okay, we'll
so
go
here's
to
the talk story.